Hi guys, do you like my headband? I thought it matched today's Bitmoji. So today we are going to be comparing and ordering fractions, decimals and percentages. Bit like yesterday's where we're going to have to find the equivalence between them all, but then we're going to be doing an extra thing on top of that, which is comparing and ordering them. So let's get started. So my first question here is asking me to use our greater than, less than or equals symbols to compare the fractions, decimals and percentages. So we did this before when we were doing decimals. We compared them by showing which of the decimals was bigger or whether they were equal by putting that symbol between them. So I've got here 0.34 and 3/4. Now, in order to compare them, we have to make them the same thing. So we have to make them both fractions, both decimals, or both percentages. It's really hard to make them both fractions, so I suggest that you make them both decimals or percentages, okay? So the way I'm going to do this is, first of all, I'm going to try and make them both decimals. Now this one is already a decimal, so that's nice and easy. So I've got a 0.34. But I need to think to myself, how can I turn 3/4 into a decimal? Now, some of you might remember you could do that on a calculator. You could divide the numerator by the denominator. So you could do 3 divided by 4. Others will remember that you can turn it into a fraction over 100 and then turn that into a decimal. If you do on your calculator 3 divided by 4, you'll find that as a decimal is 0.75. Well, now I've got both of those as decimals, it's quite easy to see that this is the one that is bigger. So I would put this symbol between them. Now, if I was doing it as percentages, we can see that 0.34 would be equal to 34%. And 3/4, if it's 0.75 as a decimal, it's going to be 75%. And as you can see, that symbol still remains the same. If you don't want to use a calculator to turn this fraction into a decimal or percentage, we can do what we did yesterday, which is where we turn it into a fraction over 100, and we can think, what did I times the bottom by? In this case it was 25. What did I times the top by? The same, 25. So my new numerator would be 75 over 100, which you know relates to 0.75 or 75%. So I've got exactly the same again here. Can I use the greater than, less than or equal symbols to compare fractions, decimals and percentages? And I've got 2 here. So I said before, the easiest way to compare them is to turn them both into a decimal or both into a percentage. Well, this one is a percentage, so I might start with this one this time. So I've got 60%. I want you to think to yourself for me, what is that as a percentage? What do you think it could be? If you said 6%, so actually if we look at those 2 digits, we can see that's a 0.6, you'd be right. So then the symbol that would go between them would be this symbol, as to be young. The crocodile eats the bigger number, so we'd go that way. If we were doing it as decimals, this one's already a decimal. So you'd be thinking to yourself, how do I turn that into a decimal? Now, it's this for many of you, but we've been telling you to put that extra placeholder on so that we can see that it's got the same amount of decimal places. And yet again, you can see that this number is bigger because 6/10 is bigger than 6/100. So it's the same symbol again. So on those first couple of questions, that's what I want you to do, to put the symbol between them to show me which one is bigger or whether they are equal. You've also got some trickier questions today where there are 3 different numbers and you've got to order them. So again, you did this with decimals, but we're going to do it now with some different things. So yet again, I'm going to have to find an equivalence between all 3 of them, put them in the same format to be able to order them from smallest to biggest. So like I've said to you, it's really hard to do it with fractions. I would do it with decimals or percentages. The first one's a percentage, so I might go across. I'm going to write them all as a percent. So we've already got this as 50%. I'm going to leave this one for a minute. This one is a percent, 0.45, 45%. Now this one's going to be tricky. I'm going to do it as the fraction over 100 method. You could do it with the division method. So I've got 4/5. I want to turn it into a fraction over 100. And I times that by 20 to go from the original denominator to the new one. So if I times the top by 20, I get 80 over 100, which tells me that this is also then 80%. So I've got 50%, 80% and 45%. So I could put those in order. So I'd have 45% and 50% and 80%. And this one was this one, this one was this one, this one was this one. But what is really good to do is to put, like when we ordered fractions we did this, to put the original number back in order. So that's not wrong, but what I would probably want to see is you to put what was there originally in the question as your answer, like that. And we'll also quickly do it with decimals, so can we turn them all into a decimal? Well, we've got 0.45 already as a decimal. 4/5, well, if we know it was 80 over 100, we can see that it would be 0.80. And then this as a decimal would be 0.50. So yet again, you could order them, put the decimals in order, and then go back and put the original number in order. I've got this question on the board, which I know is a bit small, but this is on your assignment. There we go. And I thought I'd explain this one because it does look a little bit tricky. So it says, can you see that? There we go. It says, Hassan scores 40 out of 80 in a test. Now straight away that wants me to, in my head, I want to write that like that. So that's what Hassan got, 40 out of 80. Then it says that Kate scores 40%. So that's Hassan and that's Kate in the same test. Who has the higher score? And then I have to decide who has the higher score and explain how I know. Now, in order to compare this fraction and this percentage, we would need to put them in the same format. So just like all the other questions, make them both percentages or make them both decimals, whichever one works for you. As that's done, you'll be able to see when they're in the same format that one of them is bigger. That will enable you to decide who got a higher score, and then you can explain how you did that. So I turned them both into decimals and found that this decimal was greater than this decimal. You can literally write it as numbers down here in your, well, yours is in a table, so write it in a little box. But look at those two. That's going to be some key information from the question. Good luck. I know that this is hard. We're going to bring it back to just the equivalents tomorrow, but I do think you're ready for this. So try your best. Make sure you are putting them all into decimals, all into percentages. Good luck, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.